everyone, my name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Welcome back to update number 4 on the 1000 scale Galaxy class project, and this is where things are really going to ramp up on the progress. I have 5 days off right now that I can focus completely on the project. No work, no kids in the house. I can focus all my efforts on the project, so hopefully we're going to see a good amount of progress done. Now, I don't know how much progress is going to happen in this update, but here's what I want to try to accomplish at the very least. First, I want to check on that upper part of the secondary hull. If you remember, it was splayed out just a little bit too much and didn't match the bottom section, which is on the working base behind me. So I heated it and put it into a jig so that it would conform to the right shape. So I need to get that out of the jig. It's been in there ever since I did that. See just how it's going to fit and see if there's any more work I need to do on it. If it works, if it fits properly, then I might work on getting the masks on the windows for that section, and we'll work on getting some light blocking done on that and on the lower section. Also, I want to start working on the lighting because before I can close that up, all of the lighting has to be in there, and all the groundwork for the lighting for the rest of the ship also needs to be figured out, because that's the section that all of the wiring for the lighting is going to exit and go to the control boards, which will be in the base. So that's very, very important. So I need to go through my reference material and check to make sure that I've got all of the navigational lights. I need to know what's blinking, what's not blinking. I need to make sure that everything is wired up and into the ship in that section so that when those two halves go together, everything is in there, because once those are epoxied together, I am not getting those things apart. So let's go through, let's do that. Let's see if we can get the light blocking in there as well. And anything else that I get done is going to be just bonus, but I'm going to push through and we're going to get a lot of work done on that. So let's get right at it.
But before we get started, why not take a moment and click the subscribe button. And while you're here, click on that notification bell so you don't miss a single video.
I've pulled the upper section from the jig and set it on, and you know what? It lines up perfectly. I am really thrilled with how this has turned out. I only put it into the jig for one heat treatment, and now it's been left in there for probably a couple weeks, but pulled it out today, stuck it on, and it lines up perfectly. So that is that problem fixed, and it is ready to have some windows put on. Now, with the windows, I'm just going to show this to you. The window masks, after being on for 4 days of me being away, are still perfectly in place. So clearly, putting the gloss finish on for the windows was the way to go. Now, I have also put the block masking on the back, so I'm going to go through now and add all of the other window masks. I don't think I'm going to put down a black coat. I think it's going to be dark enough with the light blocking on the inside. Remember, I was not going to put light blocking on the inside before, but now that we've figured out that this is going to work out all right with the edge windows, because I can do the light blocking on the inside, I don't need to paint the windows that are off black. They can just be off and they will look off. So I'm going to put those masks on. I am going to spray the upper hull section with the gloss where the windows go. I'm going to let that really dry, and then I'll work on putting the window masks on there, do the bulk masking on the inside, and then I'm going to work on lighting for this thing. Before I can put any of the window masks on, what I need to do is mark off where these posts enter, because I need to remove just a little bit on the inside of the top piece so that this sits down nice and flush, and we can take care of this seam really well. So what I'm going to start by doing, because this is a clear kit, I can see through it, and I am going to mark on the top where the post goes in just lightly, and nothing that I can't either remove or just cover up with the paint nice and easily. So let's get that turned over, and I can see where that's coming in. So I'm going to mark Actually, I should probably mark it a little heavier on the inside. And now I'm going to be able to take my Dremel and just remove enough of the material on the inside that this is going to sit down flush on top of these posts here, so that I will have a little work to do in making sure that that seam is nice once that piece goes on top. The more work I do on the front end to make sure things sit in properly, the less work I'm going to have on the back end to clean it all up after. Now all the window masks on the bottom secondary hull are on, so that's all the windows with lights on and off. Now I've gone ahead and I've done the Dremel work on the top section of the secondary hull so that it will mate properly with the bottom section. So we're going to try this out. I've just taped these wires out of the way for now so that they don't get in the way of me doing the work. And I'm just going to press this down. And you won't be able to see it, but I am just using my fingers to feel how well that sits down there, and I think that's about right. So I think we're going to get a good hidden seam when these parts go together. That's great. I've also gone ahead and put the gloss coat on the windows to help the window masks sit properly. We also have some interesting details here. They look like windows. On the studio model, they appear to be windows, but on every single shot of the Enterprise D I can find on screen, they're never lit like windows. So I'm not sure if they're supposed to be windows or if they are some other sort of detail. I'm just going to treat them as off windows for the purposes of this model kit. Now, I did show you the Aztec dummy masks for the windows for the bottom here, and how I thought that they were just a little bit too wide. And Luz let me know that he deliberately made them a little bit wider so that he could press them in with a toothpick, which is not quite how I'm doing it. So you can know that there is an intention for the way that they've been made a little bit wider. So if you're going to use these, use those masks on the kit, you just need to be aware that they're intended to be pushed down into it with a toothpick or something and have kind of the edges lined as well. I've made mine just to fit kind of snugly into the recessed section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the sizing on all of these windows. Most of them are various different sizes from what I can see. Get some of those printed up, cut on the cutter, and work on getting window masks down. I will start with windows that are on, and I'll put those masks on. Then I will do the bulk blocking like I did in here on the inside, and then I will go back through and mask all the windows where lights will be off. Here's a look at the slow and tedious masking process of these windows. Now I've put the piece down on a black backing, and that's actually making it a lot easier for me to see those window indents on the model, but they are very difficult to see and very difficult to line up. So it's just a slow and tedious process, and it's just one of those things that takes time, patience, and it doesn't hurt to be a little bit of a perfectionist when working on these.
In Generations, there's only about 2 minutes and 35 seconds worth of screen time of the Enterprise D, including the crash of the saucer, but not including the duplicated footage where they go back to it. But I've got this really good shot of the bottom here of some of the lights. I know about the red and the green on the tail, which is on the top and the bottom. But I'm looking for these belly lights, and this light here is a constant on. I'm gonna have to figure out where that lines up with on the model. This is the other one that I was really interested in seeing right now. This is a strobe, but I've just paused it where it's on so I can get a good location. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line it up with these windows here. And that looks like it's gonna be a good lineup for me. And if I just back this off just a little bit, you see that it is flashing. It should come back on here there we go. It just flashed. I'm just bringing this forward a little bit at a time. I guess I could hit here. There we go. Flash, flash. And yeah, so I'm gonna line it up with these windows, and that should give me a really good location. Fortunately, on the model, I did keep the stand away from that area, so that will give us a good blinker there. That one's going to be constantly on, and these, all of the navigation lights, it seems, are, like the red and the green, they seem to be constant on. Now, to figure out exactly where I want that light to be, I've cut some very thin blue 3M painter's tape, much like I did with my Enterprise E project for a lot of the masking, and I'm just going to stretch it across this grid line, which lines up with those windows. There we go. I don't care if those are out of alignment at the ends, it's just in this middle section here that I care about. I'm going to grab another piece and I'm going to try to find center. Center is important. Okay, I've got some details to find center on. There we go. That looks about right, which means this, where they cross, is where I want that flashing light to go. Much in the same way that I use the tape to find this point here, which hopefully you can see, I've marked out the other lights on the bottom side that I need to drill apertures for. So we've got the red and the green, which will go back here, and for these ones I just picked a point on the phaser array which would match on both sides that looked about the right location for these based on the studio model images and the screenshots that I have. And then again, judging roughly based on screenshots where this back constant on white light goes, ran these cross sections. So I will cut these out and I will put a little black dot where those go, and those will give me the drill points that I will need. And these are the results. We've got a marker here, here, and here, and they look to be perfectly aligned. Now all of the window masks are on, including these ones right here, and we have markings on the upper section at the back for where the LEDs will go for the navigation lights. Now there are probably about 4 different sizes of windows on this piece. You've got the ones along the edge, which I'm going to scrape because they're not going to have light translating through them anyway. There are some really small ones here, and they actually change size a little bit. You've got general size ones, longer ones, and then again different size ones up here, and they even change size up at the front. So a lot of different sized windows on this one, which is really quite interesting, but they're all on. All of the bulk masking is on the inside, and I've even masked off the photon torpedo launcher up front here. So I think I've got all the masking I need to get done. I've got all of the points for the navigation lights on both parts marked. What I think I'm going to do next is prepare all of the seams by masking them off on the top and the bottom, and then getting this thing light blocked on the inside, and I may even get some primer on the outside, and that's going to be a huge step forward. This is probably one of the coolest ways that the kit looks on a clear kit, when you've got the light blocking on the inside and it's still clear on the outside. I just think it really looks interesting. So you can see how the blank spots that I block masked on the inside are allowing light to come through where the windows will be. And this is just whatever light's reflecting off the white piece of paper on the inside. If I turn it around, you can see that we've got the white coat with the masking removed. And so this is the first step towards getting the lighting into this area. You can see that I've masked off this area, but I was really having a hard time getting the masking to stick. So I've got a different option for the upper section. So here's the upper section, and it's been masked off, but it's been masked off a little bit differently. I used a liquid mask on this section all around the edge. It sticks better to the resin than the vinyl or tape does. So I think this is going to be a much better solution. Now I'm going to still put tape around the edges just to deal with any overspray issues, because I don't want to get the primer on the outside of the ship, but this should give me a good masking on the adhesion points where this piece gets attached to the lower section. So I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to just probably touch up some of these areas where it's a little bit thinner, and then we're going to get some light blocking paint on the inside of this. Light blocking paint on the top section of the secondary hull is complete. Again, this is the coolest thing, I think, the way that the black shows through with the clear top here. But if I turn it over, you'll see that inside it is white, and the block masking has been removed. That's why you can see light shining through where the windows with lights on are going to be. So the next stage is going to be working on the interior lights and the navigation lights for the secondary hull. So that's going to be a white back here, the red and the green, the ones on the underside. There's a flasher on the bottoms as well. It's going to involve working on the photon torpedo launcher light here, which I'm going to have to drill a trench into here with the Dremel and embed the light that way, the red LED that way, and then it'll shine through the bit of clear resin that will be between it and the opening that's masked off here. So that's what I'm going to do for that. And then the other thing that I have to address pretty much right away is the deflector dish. Now, it clearly won't fit well right now, but it'll fit in there once the two halves of the secondary hull are complete. And it'll get mounted to the bottom secondary hull section first, not the top. And then this is the interior section for it. Now I'm going to need to think about the lighting for this. Probably 1 or 2 blue, 5mm blue LEDs in behind, with the rest of the back light blocked. Essentially what's going to happen is the middle section here is going to be masked for painting, and it'll be clear, which you won't see because this piece will be sitting on top of it here. And that will allow light to splash over the dish. The dish does not glow as much as light inside splashes off the dish. The edges around here are a bit of an orange color, and then the dish itself, I believe, is an orangey copper color. There is a clear ring in here that'll be masked, and that'll glow blue when the lights are on. But essentially, light comes in from behind this middle section, splashes out over the dish, and that gives you the blue look. And that's exactly how the studio model works. And so that's what we're going to do on this one. So I need to sort out the lighting, the window lights, the interiors, all of the navigation lights, and the lights for the deflector dish and for the photon tube. And once those are wired up, they're going to need to run for about 24 hours to burn them in and make sure that I don't have any defective LEDs. And then once that's done, they'll be installed into this section, and that'll be the lower engineering section basically built. And we'll put this on, we'll put the deflector dish in, and we will also need to build up some of the armature inside there. It's now time to start preparing the LEDs to go into the secondary hull. This is a piece of LED tape that I am drilling a hole through the contact points. Drilling a hole through the contact points allows me to create an area where the wire can be physically, permanently connected to the LED tape, and you do not run the risk of a solder joint coming undone and the wire coming out. I do still solder the wires directly to these points, but this gives me a strong physical connection. Afterwards, I will add shrink tube to really insulate the wires on this piece. Then it's time to start working on those 0402 SMDs. I know that they are pre-resistored, but those resistors do not add enough resistance for what I want to do. So here I am adding an extra resistor. It's a 22k ohm resistor to the negative on the LED, on the 0402 SMD, and it's being covered with yellow shrink tube. The yellow is going to indicate that it is a white light. I don't have any white shrink tube, and this is going to create a good strong connection point for the LED. Then, once that is all done, I like to make sure that I test it to make sure that it is working properly. And there we go, a working 0402 SMD.
This spaghetti mess are all the lights needed to go inside the secondary hull. I'm just going to point out a few interesting points for you. These are the blue lights, blue 5mm for the deflector dish, which are marked with blue shrink. This is the red 3mm LED for the photon tube, which is marked in red. Then we've got these yellow ones, the 0402 SMDs. There's one right there. The white, I didn't have any white shrink wrap, so yellow is going to work for it. So these are the white constant ons, and then this one with the blue stripe is the flasher yellow. Then we've got the red 0402 SMDs for the nav lights at the back, and the green ones. And what I've done here is I've just rigged up a little test rig. These are brass square tubes where the terminations of the LEDs are just soldered to the brass tubes, and then my alligator clips for my power supply are connected. And so when I turn on my bench power supply, everything should, all things being equal, light up. And yes, they do. Everything is lit up like a Christmas tree here. And I'm going to let this run for 24 hours, give or take, so that they're burnt in. Anything that will fail should fail probably in that first 24 hours. If there's any manufacturing defects, then they should die on me in that amount of time. But this is good. Everything works. My test rig works. This is the first time I've done this. And I'm going to let this sit for 24 hours, then start getting the lighting installed into the secondary hull. With all the LEDs doing their 24-hour stress test, that's all I've got to do on this project for now. So I'm going to call the update right here, and I'm happy. I got everything done, I think that I wanted to accomplish in this update. So I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, make sure that you hit that like button. If you're new to my channel or you haven't done so yet, why not hit that subscribe button today? You'll make me very happy if you do, and you'll help me get to that 1K subscriber goal for the 1K Galaxy class project. But for now, my name's Andrew, and this is Canadian Starships. Have a great day, everyone.